Hi, everybody, and welcome to Different Leaf, a show for new and experienced cannabis consumers. I'm Britt Smith. From the ever-changing cannabis laws and medical breakthroughs to the evolving industry and culture, there is a lot of news to keep up with if you're interested in marijuana. So it's no surprise that over the last few years, there have been several media companies that have started to focus on reporting specifically on weed. For example, the most gorgeous quarterly cannabis journal out there, Different Leaf, the magazine, which you can now get at differentleaf.com and is also now on the shelves at your local Barnes & Noble. But one of the earliest media brands to specialize in cannabis reporting back in 2015 was rapper Snoop Dogg's digital media company, Mary Jane, which is still producing important cannabis content from daily news to documentary series. Currently reporting and producing for Mary Jane is actress and cannabis advocate Brooke Burgstahler. You may have seen Brooke in the movie Arizona Summer or on TV shows like General Hospital, Mad Men, or Blackish. If you flip to page 83 in the latest issue of Different Leaf, the magazine, you can read all about how Brooke has gone from child actress to social media influencer and cannabis talking head. Aside from her work creating content for Mary Jane, Brooke also hosts the daily digital show World of Weed News and writes for her cannabis blog, Budding Mind. It's nice to meet you, Brooke. How's it going?
Nice to meet you too. You're British. You're also
I am so very British, yeah. Is that obvious? You can tell.
Yeah, we call you Brittany here, but you're Brit.
You know, I'll give away a secret. Brit is an old nickname that I got when I first moved to America in like 2006. And I moved to Texas, and you know how those Texans are. They called you the Brit. And it stuck, honestly. Like I started waiting tables and somebody was like, you should just go by Brit. People will remember it really well when you wait tables. I was like, all right.
Wait, so what's your born name?
Melanie. Mel.
No snap. That's so funny.
It's got nothing to do with Brit at all. And now the secret's out. Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's such a good story. Keep that around.
I'll tell you what, my husband took like weeks to whittle that one out of me when I first met him. I can't believe it. I didn't give away my name.
Wow.
And you got it right out of me. Look at you.
This is going to be a very vulnerable share, I can tell.
This is what a reporter does. She just gets it out of you. So, Brooke, you're like a reporter, producer, host, actress. You're doing a million different things, and you're sort of dipping your toe lately into the cannabis world. What was it like for your first audition that was something to do with weed?
Oh, wow. Well, that was about 5-6 years ago. So it's been a hot minute that she's been dabbling in cannabis content creation.
Oh my
cannabis
gosh.
itself, that goes back a little further. But my first actual audition, it is funny, like my entry point into the cannabis industry professionally was by way of an audition. It was by chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, I was fully embraced by Mary Jane, which is Snoop Dogg's media company. And so I started doing Mary Jane News with them, where I would produce and write and go out on the street and shoot, short form cannabis news nuggets, and no one else was really doing it. And It was a very exciting time. And then we made a 4-part docuseries called Prisoners of Prohibition with Mary Jane. That was very exciting, with the director Kwanzaa and Tara Aquino and Mike Viney over at Mary Jane. And it is about people serving life sentences for cannabis. So it's really when I started to get into the meat of what's really going on in the world of weed.
How do you pick the stories that you end up following? Because since you have to do this on a daily basis, obviously you've got to be completely just covered in news all the time.
Yeah, so I make a daily cannabis news show called World of Weed. Go follow it. And we're primarily existing in the digital space right now. So because of that, I'm not afraid of a little clickbait. I'm an edutainer. That's what I call it. It feels like I should be so up to date on everything that's happening, and yet it still feels like there's just like a mountain of new information that comes out every day. And I'm like, oh, wait, what just happened in New Jersey? Oh, I should know that.
I tried to do that at the beginning of my career as well. And I was like, there's just too much. I have to focus on something that I really care about, because if you try and cover everything, you'll do it 24 hours a day.
Yeah, and it can get diminished. Your point of view can become diminished when you're trying to have too many hands in too many honeypots. But nevertheless, I still do that. But when I'm looking for a story, I'm partly looking for something that's, extremely interesting to someone outside of the cannabis space. And then I'm also looking to cater to my organic audience, which is people who are already involved in the industry. But I hope that every once in a while my stories are tapping on people hitting their feeds and it's someone who doesn't even smoke cannabis and they're like, wait, this could help with weight loss? Let me watch this.
I saw one of your posts that was like, if you smoke a little bit, it can help anxiety, but if you smoke too much, it can worsen anxiety.
Weed can also stimulate anxiety. Now, how does this happen? While small amounts of the cannabinoid THC can help soothe anxiousness by affecting parts of the brain, like the amygdala, which helps us to process our emotions, large amounts of THC can actually overwhelm the amygdala and cause anxiety and paranoia.
Just this little tip about breathing deeply and trying some CBD. And I was like, this is perfect for folks who just want to sort of learn what's like the newest in cannabis right now and just want to get some little tidbits,
Yeah, a little taste, little sample.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really do try to do, and I think I'm becoming better at it, is really being as authentic as possible in how I portray this plant, because a lot of what I see, particularly in cannabis media, we're very quick to greenwash in this space and to say, weed is good for that. Weed will fix that. Oh, yeah, you got anxiety, you should smoke weed. You have pain, you should smoke weed. You're pregnant, you should smoke weed. And while it can be beneficial in all of these ways and more, I do think it's important to keep the bumpers up and really inform and educate people that every relationship with cannabis is unique, just as every body is unique, and not every medicine is a one-size-fits-all on this planet, whether that be aspirin or cannabis. So just to have, as well-rounded of a perspective as possible, I think is really important, and something that I hope to continue to push forward. That, exactly, like cannabis might help your anxiety, it might also freak you out. So
it often does. Yeah.
It often does. It does to me sometimes. So
yeah,
just know yourself and know that it's okay to say no.
Yeah. So when you're interviewing folks, who do you want to talk to? What kind of folks do you talk to on your show?
Well, I really love talking to women in the cannabis space. Yeah. I mean, I think it's particularly important as a woman to do what I can to shed light on other female entrepreneurs and business women. So from your professional opinion, what are some things that people should look for in a CBD product?
What I'll tell people is there's something called the COA, Certificate of Analysis. I discuss it in the book, what it is, what to look for. You want to get a complete certificate of analysis, and that includes telling you the cannabinoid profile, if you can.
And I'll talk to just about anyone in the cannabis space, but I like to stay away from the pushing of product. There's enough of that going on in the world. I don't think anyone needs my help. I don't really want to be a marketer in the cannabis space. I'm not an expert. I may be a reporter, but I'm not a cultivator. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor, and I'm okay with not having any of those labels. I'm always learning. I'm still learning. And I think that's amazing and acceptable. And I want to be the conduit for the expert. So, whoever that person is, may I filter their message into layman's terms and deliver that to an Instagram audience. And
that's what you're good at, girl.
That's what I'm good at, baby. Give me 30 seconds.
I think that this is sort of another way that journalism majors are actually going to end up going is into the world of weed. I talked to somebody who worked at a Boston University, and they said that a lot of the journalism majors there were talking about what does it take to get into cannabis media? What does that look like? Am I allowed to speak about cannabis? Can I be a cannabis reporter? And I used to work at a local radio station here in Boston. And I started off just as a writer there. I was like writing the headlines for the news anchors to read. And somebody figured that I was really interested in cannabis and that I could talk about it for hours if you put a mic in front of me. So they ended up giving me a podcast. And I went to an expo, like a panel. Yeah. And somebody in the audience asked me that. They said, my daughter goes to BU. She really wants to be in cannabis media. What do I tell her to do? And I was like, I have no idea. I lucked into this. It's really like there's not been a tailored way to move into cannabis media. What do you think you would tell people to do if they were looking to move into that field?
I think that, it's something that we've heard a million times before in this new era of digital media. But if you have a message and you have a level of authenticity to you, I think that's a very important component that I will continue to drill into people. And I do think if you're really, really trying to write about cannabis, as I said before, the whole idea of greenwashing, stray away from that. Like, have journalistic integrity. Not every brand needs to be promoted. Not everything coming out of the cannabis space is like the greatest invention ever. It's an industry and it's complex and there's so much commercialization and capitalism that's taking over. So really just like, I think honoring the plant and honoring this plant as a sentient being with her own message will resonate with people more than just trying to push an agenda, which we all have, which is to legalize weed. But
that is what we're all doing this for, yeah. I mean, if you get into cannabis media, you have to have an affinity towards it. You have to have some belief behind it, right?
Please smoke weed.
you're at least a little bit okay with smoking some weed, but it's definitely good to like genuinely care about something to do with the cannabis space as well. My big thing is the medical research. I'm super interested in that. I'm really interested in seeing the future of healthcare. It's probably because my dad was a doctor, and growing up, he would teach me so much just at the dinner table, and I was always fascinated by medicine. And when I learned how much medicinal power there was in cannabis, I was like, I definitely need to have a platform where I speak to other people who care about this stuff and who know more than me. So I think that you're right. As long as you find your little niche of passion, just start talking about it, and it'll move somewhere.
Start talking and be real. And the cannabis users are as diverse as people who drink booze, right? It's everyone. They look like everyone. So there is a place for you to reach those people through some modality of media, of content, of storytelling.
So what role does cannabis actually play in your life? Like how often do you use it? How do you use it? Where does it fit in?
I've aged along with legalization. I've matured along with legalization. So that's been a really fascinating journey to observe the parallels and to witness in myself, former Brooke, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, waking up and smoking weed every day, definitely thinking because I work in weed, like I need to be smoking all the time, and also just loving to smoke weed and not wanting to step foot in a grocery store or a Target unless I'm stoned. So,
in there.
Yeah. And as I've wanted to ramp up my level of professionalism and productivity, I've had to pause on a couple puffs here and there. So I'm still pretty much a daily cannabis user, but in different forms, and the objective is different a lot of times. Usually there's a purpose for getting stoned rather than this is like a thing on my to-do list. And I really, again, as I grow up, I try to incorporate more of a ritual with my consumption. And that doesn't look like anything grandiose or like super cool and woo-woo. It's not like a big thing, but whenever I am smoking, I do try to say like a little thank you, like just an acknowledgement, like thank you to the spirit of cannabis. Just thank you for this moment and being allowed
just
to
showing appreciation.
Yeah, and appreciation and gratitude and like humbleness for the fact that I'm able to do this, that I'm able to enjoy this plant here freely in my home with weed that I bought legally with, I've had no I haven't had no legal issues with cannabis, but
there's nobody who's had no legal issues.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait a minute. And you know what? Oof, I hope there's like some feedback on this, and I would love your opinion, Britt. So because of COVID, I'm a joint girl. Like edibles are great. I tend to go a little crazy, like after 7 milligrams. That's when the paranoia kicks in.